Hello and welcome back to my little kitchen. Today we are making this delicious sponge. So many of you have asked me to do a quick tutorial on how I make my sponge. So follow along with me today in the kitchen and I'm going to show you all of my tips and tricks so you can have a perfect light fluffy sponge every time. So making a sponge is a secret of lots of little steps that is going to make the perfect sponge. Once you've learned them, you're away laughing. The first step is I like to use a light coloured pan. The reason for that is it won't cook too quickly on the outside before the middle has had a chance to cook. It's really light and fluffy and airy and it doesn't take long to cook. So then how we prepare the tins is incredibly important as well. So we don't line the tins for making a sponge ideally. What we're going to use is softened butter and flour. The reason for that is we actually do want to make a little bit of a crust around the outside of the sponge. It adds to the beautiful look and finish of it. So I'm going to show you how I do that now. So what you want is some quite soft butter and a paper towel, and then you are going to grab some of the butter like that and then generously wipe it around the inside of your dish. It's a little bit hard to see, but we have got that nicely coated on the inside in a thick, even layer. So the next step is we're going to dust the pans with some flour. So we're going to dump a little bit of flour into here. It's probably too much, but oh well. And then you just kind of, the noise is going to be annoying, I think, sorry, with the microphone. But we're going to kind of tap it around the dish. You can do it over this one if you like, so that you're not going to waste anything. And you just sort of tap it all the way around. Give it a few little bangs and taps just to make sure there's no lumps. You don't want any lumps of the flour sitting in there. So, and then we'll dump the excess into here. Now we have our two pans done. We're going to set those aside and get on with making the sponge. Every step of your sponge is about how we create lightness and air in our sponge, and that starts from the very first step. We're going to be adding caster sugar, 3/4 of a cup of caster sugar, to a metal or a glass bowl, ideally with a whisk attachment, and then we're going to add 3 eggs to this. We're going to beat it. I'm so pleased that broke horrifically, so you can see just how uncoordinated I am in the kitchen. We're going to beat this for 10 minutes or longer potentially. What we're going to do, please break nicely. What we're going to do is we're going to whisk this for 10 minutes until it is ribbony. If you've never made something until it is ribbony, what that means, let's try for a third one. Okay. That's easy. Ribbony means that the liquid, when you lift the batter, it sits on top and so it creates like a ribbon. So we're going to whisk this now for 10 minutes and then I'll come back to you and show you the next steps. While your eggs and caster sugar are whisking, we're going to prepare the flour. Like every other step, it's all about creating air, and the way we create air with our flour is by triple sifting it. The way we measure our flour is a bit of a funny way. The easiest way is to use digital scales, because then it's 132 grams and you're golden. If not, you use your cup, and we measure out a cup of flour. Don't bang it down, level it with a knife. And then this is the slightly tricky bit. We're going to grab a tablespoon and we're actually going to take out 2 tablespoons of the flour and return it back to the pan. So it's basically 1 cup less 2 tablespoons of flour is the amount that we are after. Now we're going to add the flour into a nice fine sieve. Add in your baking powder. You guys know you always sift together your baking powder and or baking soda, whichever you're using, into the flour because it disperses it easily. So we've done that one, then we bring it over to here and we do the same thing again. Make sure you get all of the flour. And we're going to lightly sift that. And then we're going to sift it back into there a third time. So doing that, we've just created lots of lovely, light, airy flour to use in our recipe. Easy as that. So with this, you can see that it is starting to get really thick and lovely now. What we're wanting is for that ribbon to stay on the top and not sink in as quickly as it currently is. So we're pretty close, so just a couple more minutes. So you can see now it is lovely and thick, and those ribbons stay on top of the mixture, so that is ready to go. So now we have our triple sifted flour and baking powder, so we're going to tip that into here, and then we're going to do a technique which is called a cut and fold. So I use this in quite a few of my recipes, and I wanted to show you how I do it today. So basically what you're doing is grab a really big metal spoon, and you're going to, again, it's hard to show you, but we're going to go through the middle and we're going to bring it around. So you cut through the middle and bring it around, and you just do this as lightly as possible, ensuring that you scrape right down to the bottom and on the sides as well, so that the flour gets evenly incorporated. You can see now when I do a cut and fold, there is no pockets of flour remaining. The next step for my sponge is to add some melted butter along with a little bit of boiled butter. So we'll combine those together now. Just 50 grams of butter and 2 tablespoons of boiled water. And then we're going to repeat the cut and fold process. So we've got the butter and the hot water there. Very carefully pour it into your lovely sponge. And then we're going to do the same process again with the cut and fold. So I'm going to cut through the middle and fold around. So I'm going to show you now, just a few turns later, and it is beautifully incorporated and still really fluffy. And the key is to stop then too. Don't feel like, oh, I'll give it a few more goes. It is perfectly incorporated. Less is more. So the next step is working nice and quickly. We have our batter beautifully prepared, still light and airy. We're going to pop it in our prepared cake tins. I like to use a scale for doing this to ensure that they're both even, because obviously they're going to be layered, so it looks really nice. You can just eyeball it if you prefer, but I like to use a scale. So pop it on the scale and you're ready to go. Okay, so we have our cakes done. I don't really want to tip them because everything that we do from here on in is all about keeping the air in our sponges. So we have got about 430-ish grams in each. The tops are, I'm happy that they're quite nice and smooth. We're going to, without banging them, place them gently in the oven for around about 15 minutes until they just spring back to the touch. Okay, so these are straight out of the oven. So remembering we don't open the oven until the timer is up, and we've cooked them until they are just able to spring back to the touch. So the first step is we're going to run the knife around the inside of the sponge. And then, doing it on camera is a little stressful, and it is hot, bearing in mind. We're going to lift it up and carefully, using either a small wire rack or your hand, hopefully it will come out of your hand. Then you grab the rack and invert it back the other way. So, phew, first one worked. We run the knife around the inside of this one, grab the edge. It is hot, but we're going to use our hand. It's going to hopefully fall into our hand. Beautifully cooked. And then use a rack and invert it like that. Okay, so we did it. Yay! You can see here that they are light and airy. They're beautifully soft and spongy, which is good. Yay for me. They've got this lovely little light crust on the outside, but it's still really nice and soft. They came out easily thanks to the techniques with the pans. Now we're going to allow them to cool beautifully with no breeze or drafts or banging or crashing around them. And then we'll go on to the next step where we will assemble them and turn them into a delicious sponge cake. Okay, so here we go. Time to decorate. It is completely cooled. I have got some strawberry jam here. I've whipped some cream. I've got some strawberries. You can decorate it however you like, but this is how I decorate mine. So sponges are best served the day they are made. Ideally, they don't have any of those heavy, fats and things like that would keep it lasting for a long time. So I always like to make the sponge the day I serve it. But if you check out my blog post, I will show you some ways that you can keep them really nice and fresh. Alrighty, so I've spread on an even layer of jam. You absolutely don't have to use jam. Feel free to use whatever you like. I'm now going to dollop on some cream. And then I'm just going to pop on some strawberries. Okay, and then I'm going to dollop on some more cream, because why not? So that looks rough enough. It's probably going to be in a nice lean one way or another. I can't see, so I don't think anyone's going to complain though. And then you're going to take this one, have a little look, decide what side looks nicest. If you want a front or a back, again, it doesn't really matter. And then we're just going to pop that on the top. Does that look all right? You can absolutely put more cream on the top and more berries if you like. I personally just like a dusting of icing sugar. I think we have enough going on in the middle. There we go, as easy as that. So that is my delicious and actually easy sponge cake.